Start? You want to open it?
We are doing this. We're doing this.
Do you want to open it, or you think it's good just like this? I gotta say the title. What up, y'all? Welcome to the Life with the Corys podcast.
The Life with the Corys podcast.
Yes.
Do you want to say the?
What do you say?
Life with the Corys. Welcome to Life.
Welcome to Life with the Corys podcast.
We ain't practiced this, clearly.
Nah, we didn't.
5-minute intro, just because we don't know what the name of the podcast is.
Yeah. But thank you all for being here.
What's your name, boo?
This was a long time coming. My name is Darius.
My name is Cicely.
And we're married.
And we're the Corys.
There you go. We're not doing that.
No,
That
why?
joint is, that's not our kind of cheesy. You want to keep that in? We could do that.
See how you kill my dreams?
We're glad that you all are here.
Yeah, we are. Man, listen, I hope y'all here, because we doing this and
is a very
it's a whole thing.
Slow brew to where we are now as far as creating this content for you all. What do we bringing to them, baby?
Podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have a cool thing though that we actually decided is that we're gonna end every season with a live episode. Mm-hmm. So you have that to look forward to whenever we get to the end of the season.
Yes.
But I think we can just go ahead and kick off how we said that we would do it, which is that we want to start every episode by kind of checking in, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of checking in, and we will ask, what's the question?
How's life treating you?
How's life treating you?
Yeah.
The reason why we looked at each other is because
Smooth forgot.
We've been going back and forth about what do we want to ask each other. Anyway, how's life treating you? You want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
Life has been treating me good. Good. You know how life has been for us.
What is good?
It's been productive through trial and tribulation, Jesus. For a lot of reasons, you're learning I know my limits, or what I thought were my limits, and how I was pushed beyond that to the point I'm like, all right, I can do more, or I can be more.
Yeah.
A lot of situations that I put myself in, a lot of situations that, God just put in front of me that at one point I was like, all right, I can't and I won't.
Yeah.
And then when I travailed, I'm like, all right, I can and I am capable of. So,
you want to travail?
Yeah. So life is better. Life has opened up a lot more for the both of us.
Lord.
For a lot of reasons. And we might say that for another episode, but yeah.
I feel like you hitting them, you being real suspenseful. But I mean, if you scroll down a little bit more on my profile, on my profile at least, you'll see that Darius recently joined a fraternity. And
yes, so, I am a fall 24 initiate of the coldest, the first Black intercollegiate college fraternity, or fraternity in general, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I was initiated as of 2 weeks. Well, it's going to be much longer by the time you all see this. And it was a journey. I think my son just came downstairs. No.
Yeah. He definitely just opened it.
Yes, but that was
our son just opened his
journey that I am so grateful and gracious of. It has made me not only a stronger man, but a man of distinction. So again, we'll talk about that more later. 06.
Okay. I'm not. Yeah.
Listen.
That's another episode.
Yes.
Today. But okay, so I think as we just did this, right, I'm gonna say that how's life treating you is about like the last week or so.
Last week or so, I think I was coming down off of that mountain of becoming an initiate of the organization. So I saw the light a lot closer. It was still I'm gonna end up with. I still saw it, but there was still some travailing that I had to do to get there.
Yeah.
Life was still life, and with work, with us as a family, with each other, just making sure that you're straight, making sure the house is straight, making sure the boys are straight, making sure my job is straight, and still trying to get to this point where the part of the process of becoming a member was no longer as taxing on us as it was. So
listen, I'm glad it's over. I'm very proud of you, but I am glad it's over.
Yes.
Which leads me to my how's life been treating me.
Awesome transition.
Yes, I know. I do what I can. That's the journalist in me. Life is promising. We were talking about this off camera for a little bit. It just feels like something is like brewing, like that something is coming. And it's interesting that a lot of people around us have similar sentiments about their own lives. And, I don't know what God is doing, but we have been praying about a lot of transitions in our life. And the biggest one for me is that I'm applying for seminary. And so there's like this preparation that's taking place for that. Having to fill out applications and really articulate like why I want to do that and what I want to do after that. So yeah, I would say that life feels promising. For a minute it has really felt stressful,
Yeah.
to be honest. And I'm just glad to have like a sense of hope now. Where it's not just, things don't just feel like we like dragging along and just kind of going through the motions. And honestly, I feel like that's like a good why behind our podcast, which is really what this episode is going to be about, y'all. Like, this is really an introduction for y'all to get to know our heart behind this. And one of the things that we thought about for this season is that we would kind of divide our episodes up by talking about like just various things that come up in life.
Right. Yeah.
Life be life, and that's like the thing that everybody is saying now. And so every episode you'll sort of get a life experience that we'll share personally how it is our life experience, but also it'll be relatable to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of moments in our lives where we will experience something, whether it's individually or as a couple, that will provoke conversation that ends up provoking us to dig deeper into why we feel a certain way, why we are encountering what we're encountering. And, absolutely, like, what is the message that we get from it, or what I ain't gonna say revelations because that feels too deep, but ultimately it definitely, we have encountered things that provoke conversation. And it ain't even all the time, it's not always an instance where we encounter it, but we may experience it from some, like from another person's experience. Or we may encounter a person or a situation and we be like, I wonder if. And so I think that those conversations, and many times we'd be like, we wish that we had the opportunity of sharing that with other people. So
for
that's
sure.
kind of this, that will be the home of this podcast in some cases as well.
Yeah. So today is when life has you starting something new.
Yes.
When life has you starting something new. Because clearly we are starting something new.
Yes.
And just like many of you have probably experienced when you start something new, it feels like everything has happened for that something new to not happen.
Yeah. It was a bit of a rough takeoff for this, but we took off nonetheless. It got a little smoother. And just in short, me and my wife, both of us, she is a big dreamer. I'm a big imaginer. We always have ideas. Passionate about our ideas.
Yeah, definitely no shortage of ideas in our household.
And it's not limited by just that idea. We have ideas, and then we put detail to it. We think of the ingredients, the recipes. And I'll speak for myself. I'm a starter. Not the most, I'm not the best finisher. I'm not a finisher. And that's been clear. And this was one of those things where I really didn't want us to drop the ball on, but we learned that and my wife is much better at this than I am, but I'll think of something in my field of illustration. When I think of it, I can make it tangible by just drawing it, even if I don't have that idea down.
Right.
If I have a superhero that, is part kangaroo, I may not have that idea out, but as I'm drawing it, it comes to life. With my wife, it has to have the framework. It needs the bones.
I gotta know what that kangaroo is gonna look like for the most part. Yeah.
And so with this project specifically, as much as she's tried to talk me along of, hey, we need to figure out the bones. I've had the tendency to drag my weight or my feet, just because it's kind of hard for me to get on that wavelength. And that's I think that's the dichotomy of our relationship as a whole, is that she's a planner, I'm a free spirit. But with this, in order for this to work, there definitely needed to be a good meeting in the middle. And I'll even go so far as to say it needs to lean more to your side of planning, because this is episodic. And so, I have to get on board with, hey, with a schedule, you need to know what you're going to do when you do it, what we're going to think about, but still be natural.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yes, absolutely. You're right that there needs to be structure to the things that when we're endeavoring to start something. Like, you want to have some kind of plan in place, right? But also, I think that what you teach me is that everything doesn't have to be all the way in order. Like, as much as I would love for every box to be checked. So for instance, so like right now, I wish y'all could see. Y'all really don't need to see. But if you did see, you would see that it's not a perfect setup. We don't have all our stuff that we thought we were going to have. The cameras that we usually use are not at this house. We, our crew got here. We looking for, like, where's my chapstick?
Yeah.
Because I can't be on here with ashy lips. And like one thing after another is happening. And just like a week or so ago, I was like, babe, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. Let's just put it off. And how many times do we get good ideas and then we get opposition, not really even opposition, but just like obstacles or things in the way. And then suddenly we're like, oh, well, that must mean that I'm not supposed to do it. Like, we will find an excuse. And the reality is that this is something that legit, I'm not to make it too deep, but I mean, we're Christians, so some stuff is deep. Like, this actually does feel like something we're supposed to do.
Right.
And something that God is like, if you don't do it, I'm going to hold you accountable for it.
Right. And I also think that is more of the reason why there has been so many obstacles, and not even like, ooh, well, we went to use our cameras and it broke down.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, the spirit of procrastination, or just procrastinating, laziness, letting it fall by the wayside, just some of my natural shortcomings, resurfacing for something that God is like, you guys need to get on it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we think that, when, God has something for me in any situation, relationally, whether it's a job or any personal obstacles you're going through, you think that he's going to move it out of the way. When he's like, all right, you have what you are equipped with to get that out the way or to achieve that goal. But because we can't get over ourselves, with me specifically, about, when you were dealing with, and I'll be honest, when I saw that you were like, I don't want to do it, or we want to put it off, I didn't like that level, or seeing that level of defeat, because I knew that you were doing it because we were at a time where it was like, we're already kind of just, we're taxed, we're taxed, and we were passionate about this, on fire about it, talking about episodes. We had episodes in our cell phones, but when life started lifing, and we was like, whatever, I don't want to do it no more.
Yeah, we can do it.
I'm over it later. We can do it later, which is what we've said many times before.
Yeah.
And, stepping back, I'm like, no, I feel like that is an obstacle that will always be there if we don't overcome it.
Yeah, you brought up something, and this reminded me of something that we actually talked about when we first started thinking about episodes. It's like, how do you know that it's a good idea versus a God idea? And, like, you can get good ideas all the time.
Yes.
And just because it's a good idea, first off, whether you're Christian or not, just because you got a good idea that you think is a good idea doesn't mean it's the right idea for you to do. I learned that when I started a whole nonprofit, love my nonprofit, but I'm now slowly realizing that that's a good idea. That's no longer the right idea for me and my path anyway. But like, there's something different about having a God idea when you feel like you have to do it. And I think for us, this podcast and just sharing our lives on a platform in general is something that has been recurring.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't go away. And I think that's how you know when you have a God idea, is that you can't let it fall by the wayside. Every time you put it down, something reminds you to pick it back up. And that is what, I think is really I think that's what was driving you. And it's like, nah, we can't do that, because truly, and I know, like, everybody's got a podcast these days. Like, everybody's got podcasts. And even that is sort of in my ear, like, oh, you're not good enough. You don't have, like, who gonna listen to you?
Yeah, you're not them.
Meanwhile, our community, and that's another thing, like, when you have a good idea and your community supports it, a lot of times people will tell you, like, if you got folks in your circle that's not supporting your ideas and that's not your right circle, well, sometimes that circle is trying to tell you, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to listen to your circle.
Yes.
And sometimes you may need, that's when it comes to, like, discernment and wisdom. I don't even know why I said that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that people have reminded us of the impact of our lives just at a very basic level. We're not influencers. We ain't got tens of thousands of followers or nothing like that. But in our community, in our circle, we really do have that influence. I think people get so caught up on being big and grand, and Lord knows if you want to make this big and grand, make it big and grand. We down for it. But at the end of the day, if I'm endeavoring for that, then I'm motivated by the wrong things. And I think more than anything, I want to just stay true to whatever God wants me to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I think one things that where God showed up is, like you said, there were a lot of random occurrences of affirmations from people around us saying that we have a voice or just an identity that I want to hear or that people should hear.
Yeah.
Whether it's they tell you individually, they would tell you about us, or they would tell me about us. And I'm like, we haven't even done anything.
Right.
And it was, I don't want to say supernatural, but it was definitely an extraordinary response internally about kind of fanning the flame of what we already want to do.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, aside from us starting a family, this was another one of those occurrences where it's like we both have the same type of passionate about this one goal
Yeah.
that we can't shy away from.
Yeah.
And it did not, again, help that, well, it did help actually, where people was like, you
Yeah.
should,
And we don't always agree on things. People think that just because we work together a lot, that we, or because we all lovey-dovey, and
Yeah.
like, we know how to disagree well. I think that probably speaks to that. But we don't know. We definitely don't think alike. He already told you I'm the planner. He the free spirit, and
I think
love
of it-
everything about your not some things about your free spirit, but
yeah, I mean,
balance each other out. But the fact that we agreed on this one thing wholeheartedly,
Yes.
like without a doubt, I think says a lot too.
yes, I totally agree. And I think, and that's another thing about us being creatives is that people think, oh, they're creatives. It's an automatic attraction because of
Yeah.
their common interests. We don't have the same personality in our creative fields.
Yeah, we don't create the same way.
I am attracted to her creative side and she with mine, but we don't step in each other's territory of creativity. I would not try to write at the capacity. I do not have.
Yeah.
And I think, let me step back. I think
Yeah.
we both are as gifted in the other one's field
That's true.
to equal. My strengths.
I'm always correcting.
You
his
see my
captions
Facebook
like,
posts,
hey,
my IG
babe,
posts.
the typos.
I'm just so
you're
excited to get it out.
Can you go?
People
correct
still
it?
like it. They don't be here for me. And
Meanwhile,
same thing.
They really just giving you pity lights. They trying to figure out what you wrote because you skipped like.
Or I have enough people in my circle that's like, you know what? I already have an autocorrect built in my brain and heart for Darius.
Yeah.
And I think on the same side, it's like I know that my wife can draw better than most, but she knows her limits. I say all that to say that, our creative minds they're not the yin and yang, but we knew that this was something that, as far as this Venn diagram goes, a lot more is in common about what this looks like. And we both have a creative mind and heart that is built to do God's work. And for this to be such a common passion and interest for us, again, we saw what we had to do in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think I don't know. As far as like starting something new, I just really hope that we keep the momentum, because starting is one thing. Starting is the first feat.
don't I know it?
And then it's like the momentum of like endeavoring towards something, even if we're talking to nobody right now.
That's what I was about to say.
Like, we don't know. We don't even know. We talking to y'all like y'all are there. Don't know. I'm just trusting that somebody's gonna click play and somebody's gonna share it and somebody's gonna. And if y'all don't, I'm gonna do it again. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
And again and again
I think
and again.
I think the true test will be in the momentum despite the response. I think that regardless of how we are affirmed from the fruits of our labor, I think because we say that this is a God thing, that we should not be doing it for sake of seeing the fruits of our labor.
Yeah.
I think if we are to do this podcast the way that God said for us to do, or imagine us to do it, and we do it, and we are selfless in this act, then that test will be, all right, well, I want you to feel the same. I want you to keep the same energy when you don't see any likes.
Yeah.
When you don't see any view. Like, keep doing the work.
Yeah.
Even if you're not getting the gratification for you, which, it sounds good now. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do God's work. But after a while, and I'm speaking into the atmosphere, it could be several episodes down the line. I'm like, look, I'm not seeing, what algorithm are we on? But I know that I am now challenging us to be to the point where, regardless if we are continuing to be aligned with what God wants us to do naturally.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something. Okay, so we lead the youth ministry at our church. So we deal with teenagers like every week. Right now, we are preparing our teenagers to speak. And just last week, they were like, nervous about, like, my legs gonna be shaking, my voice gonna be shaky, all these people gonna be looking at me. And I told them, I was like, if you set yourself, if you say yes to God, God is not gonna let you look stupid. I think I was just reminded of that because, like, even as you're explaining, like, what if the podcast doesn't do well? What if all of this is for naught? When we first planned this, we were talking about sponsors before we even had episode ideas. And, like, golly, I'm not really trying to make this deep, but here it is. We about to go deep. I believe that things don't just, like, thoughts don't just come to us. I believe that God gave us our imagination. And so, like, when you have thoughts that come to your mind that are not carnal in nature, that they could be led by the Holy Spirit, that they could be from God. And so also we said that this wasn't going to be an overtly Christian episode, and here we are. All we do is talk about God. So, shit, big kid.
All right.
I know. But, like, there are random thoughts that we have had about this podcast and that I'm even having now as you're talking, that are like, as if it's like little nudges from God saying it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Like, you don't need to worry about it failing. You don't need to worry about it reaching the masses. You just need to do it. You don't need to worry about all that other stuff. So I think that's cool. I was just reminded, like, if you endeavor to do something that God has, like, if you say yes to God and you endeavor to do something you believe that God is behind you, that would please God, like, what does he look like allowing his people to fall flat on their face? Now, that don't mean that it's going to go, perfect. But, like, I'm trying to think in scripture if there's ever been a time where God didn't eventually honor his children.
Yeah. The challenge will be in that, though, as with all, is that as long as you align with God in regards to what the success or the end goal or destination is. Because there's a lot of stories in the Bible where, on paper or from this perspective, it's like, kind of wish I wasn't in that particular position for sake of making an example of what God can do in your life.
Yeah, listen,
It's making sure that you're aligned with God so that you know what his perspective of success is. Because, whether it's, giving up, there's some cases where it's like, drop all your things, sell all your possessions and pursue me. And, in a lot of cases, it could be, hey, drop all of what you think, your travel, your journey is going to be for sake of what your destination is going to be. I also, in that, when you are removed from your previous life, I'm pretty sure that there's an eventual attachment or understanding of what your new life is. And to kind of hone in on that, when you are pursuing something, say, all right, this is a God thing, you got to understand that it's going to take you down the path that it's not yours.
Yeah,
God's
and
path.
you likely it won't be the path you chose.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't have been the path that you would have naturally chose.
Or you didn't think of what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
I think, I thought just now, I'm like, hey, if we get a message or comment or anything that says, this podcast 6 years from now or a year from now, this podcast really nudged me in the direction of finding Christ again. Mm-hmm. That's a huge win for me or for us.
Yeah.
But I have to remember those things in my excitement. I'm definitely, and I'm easily excited when it comes to stuff that we are doing.
Yeah.
And in my excitement, I think about, endorsements, promotions, views, hits, and things like that. But if I can continue to remember, like, is that what God wants? or God is just like, I want you to save somebody in Colorado
Right.
with what you're doing.
Right.
There's one particular person, or there is someone who was like, hey, I'm not sure about my relationship with Christ. You don't know what type of butterfly effect that our podcast can do for that one person.
Like legit, all of this could have been for this one episode about starting something new. And we would have done our assignment and not know it. And, hopefully God will be like, all right, you did that one assignment. I got another one for you. And he'll give that to us.
Meanwhile, 5 years from now, somebody's talking about somebody like the pastor of a major church was like, hey, it was this one podcast. I can't remember the name of it. And they talked about starting something new.
Shout out.
We never hear. But I mean, that's our goal. I think to sow seeds, to sow a seed somewhere when like saying we want this tree to grow huge for sake of a village cultivating around it, and then leave it. As long as we know that tree will grow the way that God wanted it to for sake of cultivating that land, I don't need to see it. I just want to know that whatever we did that God told us to do works. Cool.
That's good, babe. And I think it really speaks to us as a couple, and I think it speaks to what really drew me to you. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about this in episode 2, just the story of how we met. But like, we're cultivators. Mm-hmm. We like seeing other people do well.
1000%.
And that's not for cameras.
Yeah.
Like, my husband is like he's a turtle saver. Like literally, he's the one that stops traffic to help a turtle cross the street. He has done it before. He has told me of stories, and I remember one time when I saw a dead turtle, I was like, "Dang, where was Darius?" Anyway, but my point is that like, it's cool to see us be able to articulate and be able to like manifest an idea that is. We're literally admitting that this is not for us.
Yeah.
Like, that is for other people. And that is what is driving us. Yeah. Not, being famous.
We got to keep that same energy. We got to. Because then there's also a side of us. We're both content creators. Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly an achiever.
Yes. And I got to be honest, I'm going to have to fight my carnality and saying, all right, can somebody... Where them people at that told us to do this podcast now? It's 5 views, and 3 of them is for me.
Yeah,
trying to perfect.
And I'm the other 2.
Looking stupid.
Or your mama.
Yeah, that's the 5. So I know that there is going to be opportunities for me to die to myself, to learn how to adjust to what God has for us in this particular moment.
Yeah.
To take away the fact that it's a podcast, but for like, what are we doing in that podcast, and continue to create this. I don't want to say product, but this material that is for the awareness of God, His kingdom, and what He's doing in our lives.
Yeah, we starting something new.
Starting something new again. Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's all right. And that's your business. Shout out to Tabitha Brown.
Shout out to Tab. Yeah.
But yeah, babe.
Someone who started.
Yes, started, and
it's crazy. It's like everybody, I feel like we sort of preaching to the choir, but everybody starts somewhere, and I know that's like a simple concept, but man, it's so hard to grasp. Because I know that there's probably people listening to us talk right now that got an idea that they thought they were gonna start and they stopped or whatever. You just got to see it through.
Bet.
Cool.
This how bare bones this podcast is. How much time has passed since we've been talking?
Somebody tell us.
A little over
an hour.
We've been talking for an hour.
We've been talking an hour. Oh Lord Jesus!
I don't know. I ain't take no time.
Our aim is for these to be 30 minutes. We'll get there one day. I don't know. I hope this was meaningful.
Absolutely. See, half an hour. We're gonna do about 45 minutes. 2 hours later. By the way, we have family on the other side. People who are here that really have been the cheerleaders and the sowers of our lives that we are so grateful for.
Yeah. That's another thing about starting something. You gotta have people that's going,
And it's also
have a team.
It's a little bit of pressure too, because now they investing in us, and they're like, y'all gonna do something like, it gotta, But I gotta die to that of not letting people down, because that's another episode of talking about how much pressure it is of upholding people's perspective of us. So yeah.
I think that's it. I just
Yeah.
want you to know that you are so fine, and I'm affirming you on camera because people don't think I love my husband because he always all up on me, and so I'm gonna end this episode by letting you know that I love you and that you're so fine, and I think that you're even more fine when you talk about the Lord. So
Thank you, baby. Well, I'm affirming you. I ain't gonna do it verbally.
okay, here we go. All right, cue the music because you just got off track.
Thank y'all for
Yeah.
sticking with us, and more to come. Peace.